Good morning, everyone. Delighted to be here. Would like to see you in the flesh, but this will have to do. Tom Furness and founder of the Virtual World Society. Now, as many of you may know, I've been sort of in this business for quite a while. As a matter of fact, this marks my 54th year. I began working on virtual reality in 1966 while working for the Department of Defense. I was trying to develop better ways for pilots to interface with the complexity in fighter cockpits. And in the process, invented with my colleagues what we know today as virtual reality. Now, our problem, of course, was how do we get bandwidth to and from the brain? And we started developing these technologies that would help us do that. And flight testing them, actually putting them in real airplanes and testing this. And this went on for several years, up to 1981, when we built what was called the Darth Vader simulator, which was our simulation of the super cockpit, a cockpit that you would wear, provide three-dimensional information to your eyes and your ears and your hands, and basically create a circumambience of information in which you can interact naturally and with high bandwidth. In 1989, I left the military to start a laboratory at the University of Washington and continued the journey developing the technology that has added, in part at least, the foundation of what we see today. And the applications of that technology in medicine, in education, entertainment, design, things like that. But there were two inflection points in my journey. One was in 1992 with the advent of the movie Lawnmower Man. I was asked by the producer director to become a technical advisor for that movie. They sent me the script and I read the script and I said, oh my goodness, what's happening? This is taking my baby and putting it in dystopian light. This is not what VR is about. It can be used to lift and edify rather than what was going to be shown in the movie. And this is going to be the first exposure of a lot of people to virtual reality. So I began at that time my defense, which was the first Virtual World Society. And we actually got a lot of members in, especially young people, to look at the things that would lift and edify in VR. But it was way too soon. Equipment was very expensive, sort of clunky in terms of the virtual worlds, and it was way too soon. So I revisited it several times during this 54 years. Again, the latest was when, right after Paul Malucki built the first Oculus. And I realized at that time, it's going to happen. We're now at the inflection point. So all during this journey, I've been concerned about what's been going on in the space. And I've learned a lot of things, that indeed we have built a transportation for the senses that can unlock a spatial memory. We can retain it. We never forget it. We see quality happening, getting better every day. And mind you, the delivery mechanism is getting better, but we don't have the quantity, and especially don't have the tools to help us develop that quantity rapidly. But we have proven over and over again in medicine and education that VR can truly lift us. But this is the thing what concerns me. VR can be dangerous, and we need to be aware of that. And that's why I started working on this so-called VR Manifesto. It's not necessarily a pronouncement the way things really are. It's just my way of trying to say, maybe we ought to look at these things in a bigger light, because VR is a tool to help us, empower us, and help us to accomplish things that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So this is a work in progress and something I've been sort of thinking about for quite a while. And first exposed it at the Games for Change and the XR for Good meetings, and then also in the recent summit meeting, Educators in VR, in February. So let me go over this VR Manifesto, which is a work in progress. There are 14 points I want to make. The first is to realize that we are playing with fire. As we put our head through the screen into a three-dimensional world, there's a lot going on in the process of not only putting our heads through the screen, but what's on the other side in terms of the worlds we visit. That concerns me a lot because we have a deep coupling of the human to a machine that is not like the real world, but we're trying to make it look like the real world. And unless we really understand the way humans really work, we may really hurt people. And so that's really the second manifesto. Do no harm. And we do no harm by respecting the great power this technology has, not only in coupling to our senses, but the actual content that's there, because we are in a place, because a place is put into us by VR. It's not looking at a screen. We are in a place. And one of the biggest things that concerns me and has over all these years, that we can't put people into a place where we're killing each other, where we're blowing our heads off and arms off and bodies apart. We've got to be sensitive to this, because if you do that, people will remember it. And what happens as a result of that is you either get numb or you just don't, you have nightmares about it. We need to shun violence in any form in virtual reality. Now, moving on to my more positive sides of this, we need to treasure our children. Aren't they wonderful? The imaginations they have, they just want to create. We've seen this over and over again for many years. You give them a chance and they'll build these fantastic worlds. Even young ones. We see that in Minecraft. Kids want to create. They don't want to kill. They want to create. We need to treasure them. They are our future. We also need to treasure our teachers. Now, our teachers may and should be parents, as well as the ones in school. They have a special responsibility to guide our children. And they are already confronted with a lot of challenges. And not the least of which is the use of technology in the classroom. So we need to treasure our teachers and listen to them, and how we not only need to try to convince them of the goodness of this VR technology, but do it in a way that we listen to them and understand what it would take for them to adopt it and for schools to adopt it in the classroom. The next manifesto has to do with education. I believe that we are really constraining the growth of our children with these standardized tests, because teachers are almost constrained to teach to the tests. Not all of them, but that's the way the metrics are set up. That's how you keep score, how the kids are progressing. Well, let me tell you, the tests don't tell you anything. They don't tell you anything about the capability of those kids, because tests are not the real world. We can create better ways of measuring that, where everyone succeeds, by putting children into virtual worlds where they work on things there, and then we just observe where they are in that world. And in the end, everybody gets through it, and everybody learns. As we are looking not only at the medium that delivers content to our eyes and ears and hands, we also are, of course, concerned about the message that's in the medium. I mentioned shunning violence, but we want to do the opposite. We want to build worlds that edify, that in essence raise our wonder and help us to do things we never were able to do before. For example, be able to walk at the speed of light, be able to shrink ourselves to 1 millimeter high or 1 micron high and go into these virtual worlds. Or make our interpupillary distance 1 light year and look at the universe from that standpoint in 3D. These worlds are the most important. It's just like a great television set that you've gotten. You know, it's no better than the content you're able to watch on it. And in the end, it's going to be the content creators that give us those experiences that we'll always remember. Number 8 is a special thing that happens. Those of you who had the opportunity to sort of usher in people into a virtual world for the first time, it's a sacred moment. When you put the headset on, they go into a virtual world, and then you take the headset off. This is James. He's a Robert Eagle Staff middle school student who is a part of a project we're doing there where the kids are building virtual worlds for other kids. And this is after he had his first experience in VR. His expression tells it all. We need to relish those moments, and especially we need to choreograph those moments because we want to put them into a world that is safe and one that is wondrous and doesn't make them sick. Let's remember back to this VR being a tool, that there's another whole world out there, the real world, that is beautifully texture mapped, has lots of detail, high resolution, and the acoustic quality is amazing. VR will never take the place of the real world. And what we need to do is enjoy and appreciate the real world and realize that the two can go hand in hand, because the real world can inform our virtual world, and our virtual worlds can teach and inform so that we appreciate the real world. Go outside and hug some trees. They're really wise. They are living souls themselves and have a lot to teach us. Number 10, let me tell a little story. A few years ago, I was asked to give a talk I'm at the University of Washington in Seattle, give a talk at the Washington Tree Fruit Growers Association over in Eastern Washington, where they grow a lot of apples. And I said, really? You want a VR guy to talk to these people that grow apples? And they said, yeah, we want you to tell them about what's happening at the university and the technologies that are coming about. So I went to talk to these people, about 3,000 of them in this group. And I told them about virtual cockpits and about what we can do in virtual reality and how they can really be used for education and things like that. Well, after my talk was over, all these people came up and were surrounding me. They said, oh my goodness, what should we get our kids to do? What should they study in high school? What should they study in college? I mean, do they need to get in computer science? Do they need to be, what do they need to do? You know, at that point, I had sort of an epiphany. I said, you know, the best things you can do for your kids is to get them to read the classics, because there are already thousands and thousands of virtual worlds that can be created in their imagination when they read. For that is a medium that also builds virtual worlds in our imagination. And we want to keep our imagination alive, because that's the only thing that's going to get us through in the future. Number 11, we have to embrace diversity. Not only diversity in ethnicity, but also in perspectives. Because it's so important to us to be able to look through other eyes, to be empathetic, to realize the plight of other people. VR is great for this. And we need to embrace it and celebrate it and use it to help people in the world who don't have access, to give them this access and to bring them into this world family. This is the way that we can become one in embracing that diversity. It seems like in this day and age now, we are approaching the singularity, or maybe we're even in the singularity, as Ray Kurzweil has defined for us, where things are happening so fast that we can't keep track. I can't predict the future anymore. And we're at such a high sea state, our traditional navigation instruments don't work anymore. Our compasses don't guide us. We can't shoot the stars. We can't see the stars. We can't see the horizon. We need a new navigation system to help us during this time. I'm going to propose a new navigation system, and that is that we actually use our hearts. Our hearts can tell us what to do. We already know. A part of us already knows, especially in the way that we take this technology, what we do with it, how we use it. We need to be listening to our insides. Rather than what our head is telling us, listen to our hearts. Number 13 is a homework assignment for everyone and part of the manifesto, and that is to watch the last lecture given by Randy Pausch. Randy Pausch died with pancreatic cancer. He was a professor at Carnegie Mellon University, and he gave his last lecture that many of you have probably already seen. You can find it on the web. And it's all about achieving your childhood dreams. It's not really about computer science or virtual reality. It's about how we can use technology to achieve our dreams. And then finally, number 14 is to join kindred spirits. Join people who have the same values and want to uplift humanity. And in that regard, I want to put in a plug for the Virtual World Society. Our mission is to unlock minds and link hearts. Unlock minds and link hearts to lift humanity. We like to think of ourselves as being the heart of VR. We'd like to announce a new partnership with Educators in VR, where we're combining our forces, our memberships, to work together for good. And there are wonderful projects underway in the Virtual World Society that you can become a part of. Activities we're doing in middle schools, learning living room projects, We Make Reality community, a number of these things. So join us, become a member, take in our newsletter, and join the We Make Reality Discord channel. So thank you very much. Hopefully you can help contribute to my manifesto, our manifesto, and add to it, critique it. And I'm open now for questions. Thank you.
Hi, Tom. My
Hi.
goodness, what an amazingly inspirational presentation. That was amazing, and I got emotional, and many of the other folks that are chatting to me also got emotional during that presentation. So I want to thank you for all of the amazing years you've been in this industry and the amazing thought that went into all of those points. We have time for just one question. I'm so sorry. I wish we had more time, and there's many, many questions that are coming in over the chat. There's a lot of engagement. But the one thing that caught me and that has caught the attention of a lot of the viewers is this issue around number 3, which is the shun violence. And this is something that I think all of us realize is a potential issue. And I think the question is, Tom, how do you define too violent? And is there some sort of guardrails? How do you define that? And has the train left the station? You know, we are such a violent culture, and it's everywhere. So what are your thoughts on kind of how do you set those guardrails? What is too violent, and what can we all do to try and to really kind of shun violence, as you say?
Oh gosh, that's such a great question, and so many implications of it. I mean, a lot of my friends develop shooter games and things like that, and they look at me and say, "Well, that's my business. You know, that's what we do." And my feeling is that we can, if we listen to our heart and where this can lead. What is the objective? Are we entertaining ourselves by killing other things, by causing them to cease? Or are we embracing them and learning from them? And I think it is important for us to have ratings so people know ahead of time what they can expect in these games in terms of these worlds we're putting inside of our heads. But I believe that when we actually go back, and especially when we go to the kids, and find out really what they want to do, we find out they don't they have inside of them some goodness, and that they don't necessarily want to do those things, but that's what's out there. That's how you keep score. That's how you have fun with your friends. But we can, the best defense for that is an offense for good. And I think that we need to have a rating system. I think we need to say that just some things we don't do in the arts, like the robotics. What are the rules for robotics? So we need rules, we need guidelines, we need ratings, and also, again, back to navigating with our hearts. I think when studios find that they can actually create content that people love and they enjoy without having to blow somebody's head off, then that is the positive side, and that hopefully will rule the day in the end.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So inspiring. Again, I want to thank you. I'm going to go sign up right now for the Virtual World Society. What a wonderful tribe to join, Tom, and thank you for founding it. And can you just remind everyone watching once again how they can join, or how they can reach out to you if they need to or want to?
You bet. Well, certainly join the Virtual World Society. It's free. You go to www.virtualworldsociety.org, and you can join up there and find out about our project. You make donations if you'd like. And certainly my contact information is there. And I'm happy to get your input on this manifesto, and especially these kinds of issues, because a lot of the industry, the content industry, is based upon these games that are violent. And what do we do about it? And I don't want to kill the industry. I just want to say, there's another way, guys, that we can do this to lift mankind.
Oh, I love it. So inspiring. Well, thank you so much for your time. I
You
really
bet.
appreciate you being here, and it was a pleasure to be able to meet you and ask you some questions.
You bet. Take care. Thanks.
Thanks.